I want to talk about this story that's going on in Texas right now, because this is kind of emblematic of what the future of the rights government majority will lead to, right? All these states that we see with a unified Republican government, with the Republican governor, Republican legislatures, they're passing abortion bans everywhere. Texas is one of the best examples. They've passed a 6-week abortion ban, also known as heartbeat bill and stuff like that. You might have heard it on TV. And there's a really, really important story coming out of Texas right now with a woman named Kate Cox. She is 20 weeks pregnant. And at 20 weeks, her unborn baby was diagnosed with a fetal genetic condition, which her and her doctor says have led to complications in her pregnancy and is putting her at a health risk. Now, because of the 6-week abortion ban, Texas has very, very, very rigid exceptions onto when you can actually get an abortion. You need to basically have that it's a lethal threat to the life of the mother. Now, the doctor and her are claiming, and her lawyer are all claiming, that this is putting her pregnancy at risk, which is a health risk. Pregnancy has, a mortality rate that is somewhat, can be higher, especially if you have problems with your pregnancy. So she's saying this is a lethal health risk. Travis County District Judge was the first to take it up. Her name was Judge Maya Guerra Gamble. And she ruled in favor of Kate Cox. She said that it would be a miscarriage of justice to force Cox to continue her pregnancy. And she ruled that the abortion could take place. But right away, Attorney General Ken Paxton, one of the hard-right members of the Republican Party nationally, he was almost impeached by the Texas government for a multitude of corruption scandals. He has gone on live TV and said that if it wasn't for him and the way that he conducted the election, the Democrats would have won Texas in 2020, suggesting that his rules on how ballots were and the number of ballot boxes in Democrat counties, which he was able to control, was the reason that Trump won the state of Texas, which is already an insane thing to say on national TV.
Yeah.
Well, Ken Paxton sees this decision by the Travis County District Judge, and he disagrees, and he brings the case in front of the Supreme Court of Texas. Now, the Supreme Court of Texas has halted Cox's ability of getting the procedure while they argue it out in court. So a woman's right to health care is put on hold for a bunch of men to sit in a room with their robes on and discuss the intricacies of her body. Now, Ken Paxton, the fighter that he is, has sent letters to 3 hospitals in Kate Cox's neighborhood and has threatened the doctors and the hospitals with jail time and fines if they perform the abortion for Kate. Kate's lawyers have suggested that the state is only doing this to delay her abortion as long as possible, to no longer make it feasible for her to receive the abortion and have to go through with the pregnancy and carry it all the way to term. They're just running out the clock on her.
Yeah.
Now, this is very important in American history. This is the first time that an actively pregnant adult woman has gone to court to seek to get an abortion since Roe v. Wade in 1973. This is the first time an actively pregnant woman has done this. There have been other cases in Texas. I think there was like a class action suit with multiple women looking to get settlements, but they have already had their children. They have already given birth. They were not pregnant at the time. So now the central question is being had here. The Texas Supreme Court is deciding whether a lethal fetal anomaly qualifies a pregnant patient to an abortion or not, and if that qualifies as a medical exception. I can't think of a more obvious medical exception than a lethal fetal anomaly, because we know that going through birth puts women in danger. God forbid they have to undergo a C-section, which has a higher mortality rate, right? Yeah. We have an update. The Texas Supreme Court has ruled that she has to have her baby. Cox will not be able to receive an abortion in Texas, and it is now precedent that a lethal fetal anomaly is not an acceptable medical exception to receive an abortion in the state of Texas. Cox has fled the state and is now going to receive her healthcare needs in somewhere else. But I think this poses, well, first I want to just get your reaction to that right away, right? Like, I think it's unreal that a lethal fetal anomaly is not enough to qualify as a medical exception.
I mean, I get it if it's not adding risk to the life of the mother to have the baby.
But like, if the whole point is to protect the child's life, there's no life.
Yes. I think from the more general philosophical perspective, it doesn't make any sense. But from the perspective of the letter of the law, which might have mentioned that, but probably more was about the details of when women can have abortions and when they cannot. I can understand the court interpreting the law to say, no, if this didn't affect the probability of life of the mother any more than a normal pregnancy would, then she has to have the baby. I'm not too focused on being upset or frustrated with the decision of the court. Because like my issue is the law itself. It's the law. I mean, yes, right. I take similar issue with the law. Yeah. But I understand where the court is coming from, even though I don't like the effects of the decision. Right. Yeah. Right. This is just a result of Republican governance at the end of the day, to be honest. There's really no way about it. This is a similar piece of legislation that DeSantis passed in Florida that is still, I believe, being argued out in the Florida Supreme Court. It's not fully implemented yet, but it will be implemented eventually. Iowa has done a 6-week abortion ban. These are things that a lot of the country and a lot of women in this country are going to have to reckon with. Yeah. And these states are going to feel a lot of consequences from this. There are a lot of doctors that have said that they will not go to a state with poor reproductive health care. They're not going to do it. Yeah, and they're explicitly leaving the ones that are signing these abortion laws these abortion bills into law. So Alabama, a place with already crazy medical staff deficit, passing these massive abortion bans is only encouraging more doctors to leave. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? You can pay them as much as you want because doctors make a lot of money in Alabama, especially for the cost of living. But if you're not going to have the same philosophy of what it means to care for somebody and be a doctor and agree with them on healthcare philosophy, they're not going to want to live there. They're not going to do it. They're not going to participate in your system. No, absolutely not. I want to read a little bit of the analysis of the opinion from the court. They said that a good faith belief, quote, by the doctor who sought to perform the abortion and sued alongside Kate Cox, that the procedure was medically necessary was not enough to qualify for the state's exception. Instead, the court said the doctor needed to determine in her, quote, reasonable medical judgment that Cox had a life-threatening condition and that an abortion was necessary to prevent her death or impairment of a major bodily function. I feel like that is the key point. Yeah. An abortion was necessary to prevent her death or impairment of a major bodily function. That's where they're drawing the line. That's such a high burden to face. That's a super high bar, for sure. The quote is, a woman who meets the medical necessity exception need not seek a court order to obtain an abortion. It's like they're trying to distance themselves from it. Like, this isn't about us. The law leaves to physicians, not judges, both the discretion and the responsibility to exercise their reasonable medical judgment, given the unique facts and circumstances of each patient. And yet, if the doctor was in court suing alongside Cox, isn't it clear that her judgment wasn't enough? Like, she needed more direction from the legal system to know whether it was okay to do so? Right, because, the doctor doesn't. This is what's causing so much trouble. When you have all these exceptions, the doctors have such a massive risk that they're taking on if they want to perform this procedure, right? They have to take in so much risk. They could lose their license, their livelihood, go to jail. Yeah. No woman, even if the woman was raped, even if the woman was a victim of incest, which I think this law exempts for. Okay. I'm not sure about that, but I know there's some states that do. Anyway, point is, even if they are victims of rape, of incest, the doctor is going to be like, do you have proof of that? Because if you don't, if I perform this and then I find out you're lying to me, I lose my entire life. Like, you can't lie to me here. Yeah. And so the exceptions just scare doctors away from performing the procedures, even if they find it reasonably necessary. Totally. And what they're saying there with their definition of reasonably necessary, it's not that if the doctor finds it reasonably necessary, it's if the doctor finds that she's going to literally die if she's going to get it, which is just ridiculous of bar to pass. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, and again, pregnancy always has risk, right? There is some risk that she will die. So then as a doctor, you have to start guessing, okay, what's the percentage? Is it like 10% chance she's going to die, then I can do the abortion? Is it 25%? Is it 50%?
Right.
Right? Like, that's why this statement that it's not up to the court, it's up to the doctor's judgment to figure out whether they can do the abortion.
It's not really true.
No, it's not true at all.
It's not true.
No.
It's not true. It comes down to what the court says. But I think this poses the next interesting question that we're going to see, that I'm curious about what happens to Kate. Will she be punished upon her return? I think that will set up the next large challenge to abortion.
Yeah.
Will she be punished if she comes back to Texas? Will Ken Paxton go after her and, go after her for murder?
Man, I would hope if he does that people are incentivized to vote blue.
I really hope so. Yeah. Because this is unfucking acceptable.
It's
and
crazy.
Don't let anyone tell you that voting a Republican into the national government doesn't bring this policy into the room, because that's not true. Even if you think you're electing a moderate Republican, whether that exists or not, you're empowering all the Republicans in Tennessee and Alabama and Mississippi who get committee assignments, who get committee seats, who write the legislation that will fuck up your life and all the women's lives in your life that you care about.
Yeah, we talk about the Overton window often on this show. And the problem is that the way you vote and the people who hold the highest offices in the country, they affect the Overton window. They affect what it's okay to pass as law, to have in discussion. And so we need to work to move it away from these strict abortion bans after 6 weeks as being part of the Overton window. That needs to be something we make not okay. And hopefully we can use stories like this to show that.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. All love to Kate Cox. Hope she's all right.
Yeah. Crazy. I kind of hope she doesn't return to Texas.
I really
so she
hope
doesn't
she
have to risk that.
I really hope she doesn't return to Texas. If she were to come to Brookline, Massachusetts, she could live here and we would never hand her over to Texas authorities, because we don't cooperate with any governments looking to punish people for abortion or gender affirming care.
Yep, absolutely.